Hello, I'm John Joseph, author of Treating Addiction, Recovery from Alcoholism and Drug Addiction. Today I'm going to talk with you about diagnosing pre-addiction in youth, in preteens. Now, can you diagnose if your son or daughter is going to become an addict? Yes, you can. There are some telltale signs. They're not always there. I'm not saying every case you're going to be able to, but on a big level, if you observe your children properly, diagnose them properly, or know what to look for, you can get a pretty good idea if they're more prone to being an addict when they get a little bit older. If you have a child that is very hyper, ADHD, those are usually the children that turn out to need something to calm them, a self-medication as they get older. Couple of examples. A friend of mine I was discussing this with, and she told me she got 3 children, and the one daughter was 10 years old. And she says that she seems a bit hyper. And when I was going over the subject of pre-addiction, because she had asked me, she says, I hope none of my kids grow up to be an addict, alcoholic, because she's an alcoholic and her mother was an alcoholic. So those are signs to look out for. And her husband drank a lot. She told me that her daughter, she says, we can be sitting down watching a movie and the daughter will get up all the time, every few minutes, got to go run to the refrigerator, can't keep still, keeps getting off of the chair, while the family's watching the movie. Those are telltale signs that that child is restless and has an unquiet mind and is more prone to being an addict. Generally, a cocaine addict, now, I know a guy that had a cocaine addiction. I know many, and this guy wound up getting clean, and I remember several times I went to his house. And this guy's in his 30s, and he was clean from his cocaine. He told me all the stories, and I would get there early all the time. I'm an early riser, and I was doing some work with the guy, and I'd get there in the morning, and he would answer the door all disheveled and like, head down low. He said, listen, don't even talk to me yet. He said, I gotta get my triple shot cappuccino. And this guy would have a triple shot cappuccino every morning just to get up. So you could see why his body chemistry went for cocaine. When I was younger, now I was an alcoholic till I was 29 and a half, from about the age of, 15, I don't want to say 14. And here's the thing about me. I was always restless in school. I'd get in trouble. I could never sit in my seat. I would bring unpopped popcorn and just throw it around the classroom, and then everybody be throwing it around. When the teacher wasn't looking, I'd be making airplanes. It was an unsettledness. But here also, I was always thin as a child up until I was in the 4th grade. Then I got real fat. I was 4 foot 11 inches tall in 4th grade, and I had a size 36 waist. We knew there were problems when my dad handed me down a pair of his pants. So I got really fat. And what it was, I was eating all the time. I was staying at home. I had some sociable issues, with just going out and being sociable, which I won't get into those details. It was brief. I got over it. But anyways, here I was in the house, and I was eating. I was binge eating in 4th grade. That went on for about 3 years. I was really, really heavy. I found one picture of me when I was that fat. And what happened was, by about 7th grade, going towards into 8th grade, I started to lose the weight. Well, it was just as my first year into high school, I started drinking heavy. So, here I am, the unsettled, unquiet mind, binge eating to try to satisfy the unbalanced brain chemistry. And then just as I get thin, I'm drinking heavily. So I turned to my new addiction. There were other reasons why I started too, and it doesn't mean that I was going to go to alcohol for addiction. And I won't get into this study right here, but that's what I chose at the time. And there's other reasons that did make me start drinking. But anyways, pre-addiction. Here's what you got to look for. You have to look for psychological disorders in your children. They're there. 1 in 5 have them. So, and 1 in 3 is an addict, be it drugs, alcohol, eating, food, gambling, behaviors. So, don't think that, you're the perfect family. Nobody, don't get caught up in the stigma of it, okay? It's very, very common, a lot more common than anybody realizes. But what you look for, and it's important, if you can diagnose bipolar or schizophrenia young in your child. Now, most people don't know how to diagnose that, let alone pre-diagnose it or look for the early symptoms. Here's what you look for. Look for, is it in your family? Do you have it? Does your wife have it? Does your mother or father or your wife's mother and father have it? Schizophrenia. Now, I know you see a homeless man, woman on the street, and you could see they're in pathetic shape, and it's sad. They're talking to themselves, they're, looking off, and blah, 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 and just outbursts of noise. And schizophrenia, if it's treated in the youth, it usually shows itself by about 8 years old to 12 years old. It begins to show itself. If you can treat bipolar, and if you can treat schizophrenia young, if you can catch it young by knowing it's in your family and catching it in the family member that it looks like may have it, it won't get very severe. It seems to be that when schizophrenia isn't treated, if it's treated after age 21 or after age 25, it's got a lesser of a good outcome. So you have to watch your children. You don't wait for them to one day come home and you find out they're getting high all the time and there's problems. You can catch it young, and you need to have talks with your children. You need to be very open with your children so you can catch any issues that may be coming along that may cause an unquiet mind. You see, once you understand what an unquiet mind is, you can virtually diagnose addiction in anybody because you can see it. And you have to be very alert to any uneasiness in your children, an inability to relax, to not being antsy. And that's how you know that they're very well on their way to becoming an addict later in life. So anxieties and depressions and sluggishness, those are both signs that you can have a son or daughter addicted to an upper or to a downer, as an it could be drugs, could be heroin, could be opioids, alcohol too. I didn't like cocaine. I was just strictly an alcoholic because I was always so high strung. I needed something to pull me down, and did not like cocaine at all. It was always drinking because I was so fueled up, and then to get fueled up even higher with an upper, it was just, I couldn't handle it. So I will go over more subjects and get into more details on other videos on how you become addicted. But thank you.